Hi, this is Eric Altman, Bigfoot researcher from Pennsylvania, and you're listening to the Bigfoot Club podcast.
Be sure to check out the website at www.bigfootclubpodcast.com for merch and all of the episodes. Be sure to check out Bigfoot Club on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Bigfoot Club 1. That's Bigfoot Club and the number 1.
Hey everybody, Robert Jesse Dominguez, Bigfoot Club, Season 4, Episode 15. Today we're going to be interviewing Sarah Kersey with Weird Horizon Podcast out of the UK. I met Sarah through another podcaster, Terry Kegel, and I really liked her podcast and her story on there, so I invited her to come on Bigfoot Club, and we talk about podcasting and the paranormal, so I hope you enjoy it. I'm here today with Sarah Kersey with Weird Horizon Podcast. Sarah, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good. I know this is our second time talking.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, the first time we did the interview, it was some technical difficulties on my end, I believe. So it was, I apologize for that. So
it's okay. I think it might have been mine because it's happened to me since. So I think I might have been the cursed one, actually.
But I wanted to tell you that I am a huge fan of your show. I listen to your show like as soon as you pop out a new one. I try my best to listen to it. But I'm a really big fan of your show. I love the topics that you talk about, like Hollow Earth. It's stuff that I want to talk about, but I haven't got a chance to go around to talk about them. And like you talk about Hollow Earth, Men in Black, and UFOs. And what I really love about your show is that, I mean, because like most of these subjects are it's a pretty big subject, so you end up doing like 4 or like 3 episodes on stuff, and which I love because it's so much material just to cover on one show.
Yeah, they do end up being pretty long most of the time. It's good though because, like I said, some of these subjects you think they're really they're simple, like there's not a lot to learn about it, and then as soon as you start researching them, they almost always just branch out into this massive subject and you had no idea. And I knew sort of from very early on, from like literally the first couple of episodes I did, I knew that I wanted to do this sort of format where it will be one topic for over a couple of weeks. And I'm glad I've stuck with it because it's good. I feel like I can go into as much sort of depth as I want to, and I can really just, go down the rabbit hole and just follow some of these topics and see where they go, because a lot of them end up connecting back to each other, which is so cool. And it's just, it's one of those, the more time you spend researching it, the more you find more things you want to research, unfortunately. It's just never ending. I
was going to ask you what got you into doing podcasting? Because I think I asked you before if you were, from my standpoint, I used to be a Bigfoot researcher for 20 years, and then I was a case director for a paranormal group for 10, and I kind of got burned by that a couple of times, and so I ended up just doing like a podcast. So I'm interested from your perspective, hey, I'm going to do a podcast.
Yeah. I wish it was something that cool. Like, unfortunately, I don't really have like any sort of community where I am for people researching similar things. I'm sure they're out there, and I'm sort of like slowly reaching out those feelers, but to be honest, it's a concept that's always kind of interested me. I've always really been interested in, especially like conspiracy theory topics. I just find them so fascinating. And it just came to a point where like I was just enjoying a lot of this content. I was enjoying a lot of conspiracy theory content and stuff about, UFOs. And I was getting to the point where I was hearing the same material over and over again and just thinking like, I really want an excuse basically to just really deep dive into this and do it for myself. And while I was doing that, I was putting together this big document about all the stuff that I was finding for no real purpose. And then I kind of stumbled across the idea of like, I'm enjoying all of these podcasts. Like, why don't I just put one out there of my own? Because I just, like, so it's kind of a little bit of an excuse to do loads of research into these topics. But I'm one of those people that I'll get fascinated by a topic anyway. And it kind of gives me a little structure to work through, and that I can really enjoy it and then make something at the end of it. And if anyone else, if someone else listens to it and finds the same kind of weird comfort that I do from conspiracy theory topics, then great. It also means I put something out there that I'm proud of,
Mm-hmm.
Because it is weirdly comforting. I don't know if you find that as well. Like,
I do.
I don't know what it is. I'd love to know why that is.
The comfort level.
Mm.
I mean, because like, to be honest, I think from my perspective, I've dealt with tons of people that, because like I walk around now, because I predominantly go to like Bigfoot conferences and paranormal conferences and stuff, and I walk around with my my shirt on, and I walk around and people just like, they gravitate to me. Even like at a grocery store, people just gravitate to me and tell me, it goes, "Hey, I saw him in the back road of Farm Road 175. They end up telling me stuff like that, and I go, "Oh,
so
really?"
Cool.
I go, "Really?" And they go, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to tell me about it?" I goes, "Yeah." And then they end up telling, like, so I don't know. I guess it's just one of that levels that, because like most of the people that I've interviewed is the people who've come to me that I know they have no conduit or no avenue to talk to about to anyone. So I guess it's like a comfort level that people experience, and they don't want to be called out. And so they just, whenever they find someone or people or like a podcast, they just feel like they're gravitated to it. I don't know. That's just the way I see it on that.
I think that's a good theory, because like I said, some of these theories are not accepted by everyone. You can't go up to just anyone and say, "Oh, this is what I experienced," but these are the experiences that people have had, and I think just being able to share them, I think that's so cool, by the way, that people just come up to you with their stories. Like, I would love that. That would be my absolute end goal.
You gotta get you a shirt and just put it on and just walk around.
Gotta have a bit of merch. I gotta have something, just a little billboard saying like, please approach me with stories. I want to hear them.
The funny thing is that I know, because I know from your perspective, and like, I don't know which town, I don't know if you want to say what town that you live in, but I know like in England, right? Because there's that whole island's probably haunted, right? It's like,
oh yeah,
it's like a gasoline station that probably had homes there like hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. Like, when you look at just buildings have a history because they've been around for so long. Yeah, pretty much all of England is just like, these towns have been there for 500, 600 years at least. So it's all got to be haunted. Like, literally everywhere is going to be haunted. So, especially where I am. I'm in Cornwall, so sort of southwest. And there are loads and loads of ghost stories. Like, pretty much every pub, every like inn has got a ghost story, their own special little ghost story, usually linked to sort of the pirate side of things. So it'll be a pirate or a smuggler ghosts, which are pretty cool. Unfortunately, not a lot of stuff written about it though. I really came up across like a brick wall when I was thinking, like, I've heard so many tales about Cornwall and how haunted it is, but there's a lot of sort of like local tales, but not a lot of them are written down, so it's quite hard to try and research them and trace them back. Maybe there is an opportunity there for someone to write a book about ghosts down here.
I kind of envy that about you, because like, there's ghost stories like here in Texas, but probably nothing like England and stuff, with castles and dukes and all kinds of territories and lands. And I've always wanted to go to England. If I go to England or Ireland, it's just like I want to go to a castle.
Oh yeah, no, they are fantastic.
So
I never pass up an opportunity to go to a castle because they're just always so cool, and it's just really interesting to be in a space that has been inhabited in some form for just hundreds of years. In some cases, it's kind of a bit spooky, and you think, this is just a house at the end of the day, and people were just in here just doing regular everyday things hundreds of years in the past, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. I love them. I think they've always got a really cool sort of aura to them. They've got a sort of atmosphere that you only really find in just very, very old buildings. And I'm not sort of spiritual in any way, but I think I just really enjoy history. I've got a real reverence for like, human history. So if I know a place has been inhabited by people like me, but hundreds of years in the past, I just find it really cool. It's just really cool, man.
Yeah.
Just like it. It's just neat.
I didn't tell you, but last night I went with because I have a Facebook group, Paranormal Investigations of North Texas, and I used to be the case director for that group, and that group is disbanded since then. So I've kind of just carried that Facebook group, and so we have like tons of other groups within that group, and so I have like 3 or 4 moderators that do it for me, and 3 of us went to a cemetery here in Irving, in Texas. It's a suburb of Dallas, and we went to a cemetery that supposedly it's hidden like within like other businesses and stuff, and you can't really find it unless you go there. And it was founders of the city of Irving, and it's nothing like like England, like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But the last time we were there, which was a year ago before I got sick, we didn't have a lot of paranormal stuff, but we had a lot of synchronicity stuff happen. It was kind of weird because I had a roommate that was walking, and her foot fell into a grave, and I had to help her out. And then my coworker, which is one of my moderators, fell into the same hole, and her foot got stuck in the hole. And then she looked at the tombstone, and the guy whose name was, I'm not going to say his name, but he died on her birthday. And,
oh, wow.
And that was kind of weird. So we kind of just huddled around his tombstone, and we were doing some sessions and stuff. And so later, like we went home, we went to work the very next day, and we were talking to our boss because we had a stand-up meeting with her, and we were telling her what happened, and we were telling her, hey, this was happened. Caitlin fell into this grave, and it was this person's name, and she goes, what was his name? And we told him, we told our boss again, and she goes, I worked with that guy for 30 years. And,
whoa.
And then she looked him up really quick to make sure he was, he had passed, and yeah, he had passed. She had pictures of him, and so it was just kind of weird.
That is
synchronicity
weird.
stuff. So
yeah, more so than you can't just say that's just,
yeah,
coincidence. There's definitely a level above just coincidence, isn't there? There seems to be. There's a link there.
My hair's standing up right now.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So we actually went back. We went back last night, and we went to his grave. And he used to be the ball boy for the American football team, the Dallas Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, when he was a kid, he would just like, whenever they needed a ball, he would just go run and grab balls for them and stuff. And so we brought a football and we put it down there, and we didn't get any like readings throughout the night until like the sun went down, and he was buried next to his wife. And so we were calling out his name, and we didn't get any responses. And when the sun went down, we started calling out to her, and then we got some responses on the K2 meter. And so in like the whole night, we didn't get anything else except for like maybe like 20 minutes of talking to her about it. We were asking her if she was happy that we were there to bring a football to her husband and stuff. So it was kind of neat. It was, I don't know, it was just a weird experience. And I haven't done a lot of paranormal stuff recently because I know I told you on the last time we talked, I was sick all last year, and I just got better, and so I'm able to walk around a little bit better now. So, but it was pretty neat to like to do that. So I'm building up to a question to, do you go and like field and do anything on your own, or does anybody call you out to do any kind of research, or do you have your own gear or anything like that?
No, I don't. It's definitely the kind of thing that I would be so interested in doing, though. When you were telling me about that, like, that sounds great. Like, it sounds like the kind of thing I really would like to do with the right kind of people, Mm-hmm. Have to go out there for the right reasons. It sounds like, what you had is a very sort of positive experience and very, respectful, and just trying to establish connection. And like, I definitely want to go with that kind of mindset, but it's having trouble reaching out to people who have the same kind of ideas, who aren't gonna come at it from a really sort of disrespectful point of view, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it's one of those things that you can't. at least I try not to associate myself, because most of the moderators that I have, there were in groups and they're no longer in groups, and so they kind of like got burned by like the whole group thing. And not that I'm talking bad about any kind of groups. I mean, because like every group is different, and depending on who's running it. So I do not want to talk. I don't want our listeners or your listeners to think I'm bad mouthing groups. I'm not. But some of us got burned by some groups, and so we just do it like on our own. So most of the people that I associate with, or I have my moderators on Pentex, they're extremely positive. And I have a diverse group of people. I have a priest, I have a witch, and I have a couple investigators, and I got a couple people that are just interested like in the subject. So our goal is to help people. And I usually get like 2 cases a month, people that need help and they don't know where to go. And so I network with a lot of people. And if I can't do it myself, then I try to get someone else to go help them. And I always tell them, I was like, just help them. I don't care how you do it. I mean, you don't have to give me all the like the details on how you did it. I just want you to make sure that they've been helped. You're able to like to cleanse them, or they're able to move on or accept this or whatever. So most of the people that I try to associate with, whether it's Bigfoot or the paranormal, I try to make sure that you're positive, and if the person doesn't want their information put out there, then you don't put it out, and you just kind of help them or just educate them like the best that you can. So that's what I always look for. And I know when I was listening to your show, I get that from you, that you want to educate people and you give information. This is the information I found. This is the information that I'm giving you. So I kind of gravitated to your show because I didn't really say. I found you through Terry Kegel, Porch Matters podcast. So I've been on his show, and he reached out to me, and so I listened to his show all the time, and I heard you on there because he has a few paranormal people on there, and not that I want to talk bad about anybody, but I gravitated toward your show because you were extremely positive, and I had I just felt good about your show, so I just wanted to tell you that. So,
well, thank you. It's all like I said, it sounds like your crew is really good, and like you have a good, you got a good people sense. I think meeting the people you're going to be going out with is absolutely crucial. So if I was going to, and I think I would like to in the future, it's definitely something I'd like to kind of get out there a bit practically. Because like I said, there's so many people out there with really interesting stories local to me, and I want to go out there and approach them and talk to them. But I need to sort of find my little crew first. And I think
I think I was
meeting them, talk to them, go from there.
I was telling you, I think I've sent you a couple of links. I think recently I sent you it was like a paranormal conference.
You did.
And so we were talking about clicks, and we were talking about, you just got to network and just find people. And, eventually you connect with, certain people, and certain people, okay, I don't, because like people always tell me all the time, because, hey, you should talk to Barry. He likes Bigfoot. And I always say, I go, just because he likes Bigfoot doesn't mean I got to be in the woods with him. So
I was looking at that, the convention you sent me the link to, and obviously I won't say anything to identify it, but they had like the roster of all the speakers that are up, and some of them sound really amazing and interesting. And then it's that thing that you often find with sort of paranormal, in that like it goes too far in the conspiracy theory sort of end of things and can get quite troublesome. Some sort of fairly worrying ideas being bandied around, but like it's not everyone. Like they are they're doing a good job at sort of representing a whole sort of spectrum of people who are interested in it and sort of all different avenues. But I feel like there's definitely some people that I kind of resonate more with what they're doing versus others. Obviously wouldn't want to name any names, but right. You know how it is. Everyone's got different viewpoints as people at the end of the day. So
I mean,
expect them to.
I know I can tell you from like the Bigfoot side. I got burned like really bad in 2017 or something or 2011. I don't know. I can't remember, but I got burned out really bad because the Bigfoot community is very, very, I don't want to say the word toxic. It's just very negative. And there were some people that would present like information on, Facebook or YouTube or whatever. And if you didn't agree with them, they would attack you. Like if you question them and say, do you have any video of this? Or do you have any more shots of this? They would get defensive because this was a Bigfoot and you have to accept it and that's it, and it's like, okay, but hold on a minute. And, we're in this to prove this animal exists. I go, you don't need to be. And I always say this all the time, Sarah. I go, you have to armadillo up, which means you got to have tough skin. If you're gonna present information on to the internet, I'm not the only one that's going to attack you or question you about this. You have to, you have to be able to cover yourself. And so, like all the Bigfoot stuff that I've done, we used to have a saying: when you're in doubt, throw it out. We used to say that. And so if the picture's not clear or whatever the evidence that you present's not clear, then just toss it out and go to the next one. And so, but you get all these guys that, not guys, but just people in general that just want to cram stuff down your throat. And if you don't accept it, because like Bigfoot stuff and paranormal stuff here, like in the States, is very, very cliquey. And I know we talked about that before. I don't know how it is over there in England, but
yeah, there's definitely sort of approaches that are accepted. It's kind of over here, if you're into one thing, like if you're into the sort of paranormal ghost side of things, it seems to go hand in hand with a lot of the more spiritual stuff, and like specifically, like your astrology and things like that. They kind of all go together for whatever reason. It's like there's a sort of lifestyle, and it's kind of expected that if you're into one thing, you're into all of it, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it does make it hard sometimes to present certain information because, people are expecting something different from you. Can be quite, I don't know where I'm going with that. But you know what I mean? Sometimes it feels like people want a certain thing from you, and if you say something contrary, it's, I don't know. Yeah.
I've been attacked by, some people and stuff, and it's just like, well, okay, whatever, dude. I mean, I used to get so upset about it, and now I don't. I mean, because I've kind of moved, because like I said before, I was a researcher for 20 years and paranormal and Bigfoot, and I've kind of moved to where, you know what, I'm just a podcaster now, and I kind of look at it like we're Sports Illustrated, because I've done it. I don't do it anymore, but I've been there, and I have a different perspective than, because like someone will say, hey, I do this in the field. And I go, okay, I've done that too. You want to try this, see if this works. So I've kind of moved into that. So I don't know. I'm interested, in your show and where you end up taking it. And how, if you go in the field, I'm interested in your show already, but I don't know. I'm just pretty excited about, how you present yourself, and I know I keep saying that, and I'm sorry, but I really enjoy your show. I just want you to know that. So
it's nice to get, any kind of feedback. Like, I know we've spoken about this before, but like, putting out a podcast, like a podcast specifically, there's not always a lot of feedback, or feedback's available, but you have to go and ask for it. Really, it's not just, for better or for worse, it's not just kind of presented to you, which is absolutely like a blessing and a curse, because other forms of like media or other forms of content, as soon as you put it out there, you're going to get people giving you feedback, good or bad. But it's not really like that with podcasting. Like, there isn't the same sort of culture of giving feedback or comments than there is, like, say, if you're putting things up on YouTube, which is great because, like you said, it's, I don't know, you do have to have a little bit of immunity to criticism, but is not right there in front of your face, which is nice, I guess. But
Yeah.
you don't always get the constructive feedback either. So it can feel a bit like you're sort of just stabbing in the dark a little bit about where you're going.
Yeah, I had this one guy, I think he instant messaged me or something. I can't remember if he DM'd me on on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, or Instagram. I don't know. But he was telling me, he goes, your intro music's too long.
Or just that.
Yeah, just that. It goes like, you lost me after 2 minutes. I quit listening to your show. And I go, okay, thanks. I appreciate it. So.
I mean, at least you've taken a time out to give some specific feedback as well.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I've been like every show. At least I say, hey, please, if you have any strange stories, and it's, I know, like, like with my show, it's called Bigfoot Club, so people just assume it's automatically just Bigfoot stuff. And I tell everybody on every show, I said, please, if you have any stories, it doesn't have to be about Bigfoot. It can be paranormal or just strange stories. I go, just email me a story. I don't care, and I'll talk about it on the air. I've only had one person email me a story, so Was it a good one? Yeah, it was a good one. It was a lady that listens to the show regularly, and she said that she lived in, I think, Ohio, and she didn't see a Bigfoot, but she heard something that sounded similar to a Bigfoot, screaming outside her house and running by like her back of her house or something. And then she looked up like Bigfoot sightings in the area, and there's Bigfoots. And I told her like really quick, oh, there's a lot of Bigfoot in your area. So I'm just telling you that right now, because I've been to that state where she lives at, and there's all over that area. So I told her, I go, yeah, they're all over that area. So, but it was an interesting story, and she was very detailed on everything, which I really loved. She talked about like what day it was, how she was feeling. What was the weather like outside? How did she feel after she had the experience? And it was really interesting. So it was, so I try to get a story and just like, cause I've talked to so many people, and some people say, hey, you have a story. I go, can I talk about it on the podcast? No. I go, okay.
Oh,
but I've had some weird stories recently just thrown to me, and I can't use them cause they won't let me. And I go, okay, well, I won't use it then. So, but they,
totally understandable. But
yeah,
still, I want to hear them so much.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk to you about them off air, but I can't do it on the thing. So, but I was going to ask you, what are your? I know we're talking about this, but what are your thoughts on Bigfoot and stuff?
I don't know a huge amount about sort of like the cryptid side of things, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
Not really something I've had a look into yet. Like, we have sort of some local legends, obviously, to the UK about, like where I live, specifically Cornwall. There's the Beast of Bodmin Moor, which is, a big sort of red-eyed demon cat, basically, like a large wild cat that's supposed to sort of roam the moors around here. But I'm aware of the legends around it, but not any real specifics. I don't think we have a big sort of as big a culture around it as you guys do in the States. I feel like it's a bit more of a thing in the States than it is over here. I think ours is more ghosts, ghosts and hauntings.
Well, I know you. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but you had a guy on your show. I think it was like a really small segment, and he was talking about Bigfoot in Florida.
Yes, he was from Florida Man on Florida Man. Yeah, Cameron.
Yes, and I listened to that show I think 2-3 times. It's just because like you were talking about Bigfoot, so I said I'm going to listen to the show. I mean, I listened to all your shows, but I was listening to that one intently. So I know he was talking about. You asked the question because he was saying Florida skunk ape.
Yeah.
And you asked him the question, was why do they call him skunk ape? And he wasn't sure. And I was like, well, they call Florida skunk ape, but really every Bigfoot stinks really bad. Cause like the theory on that, cause I read a lot of Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall stuff because they've done a lot of stuff on primates. Mm-hmm. And so whenever a primate gets defensive or it feels like it's threatened, it'll emit this pungent odor whenever it feels threatened. So that's what primates do. And it's like 100 times odor, like of body odor.
Oh, wow.
And so Bigfoots do the exact same thing that I've noticed. And I've been in the field and I've interviewed people, and that's what they say. Cause I had this big, like this really strong odor. I go, what did it smell like? And they would tell me, a cross between old garbage and poop or something like that, or pee. And I go, okay, that's cool. And so, but that's what, for some reason, that name stuck in Florida, the Florida skunk ape. Yeah.
So skunk because of smell rather than appearance.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, but even in Texas, I've talked to people and they go, yeah, it stunk really bad over here. So that name just kind of stuck in Florida. I don't know why, but it does. But it's just one of those things. But I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed I was going to say that there's I can't find it right now, but there's a group in Ireland that claim to have Bigfoot sightings, and when I find it, I'm going to send it to you.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
because it's Bigfoot in various forms seems to be sort of everywhere in the US, as far as I'm aware. Going by different names, but the same kind of creature appearing everywhere. So I think it's very interesting if it's in Ireland. I wonder if it's is it something to do with how the land was previously formed or something? Could there be little pockets other places?
Yeah, because I know I've talked about it on my show that if there's guys that just claim that Bigfoot is flesh and blood. If they're flesh and blood, they have to perish eventually. If they're a mammal, they have to have a soul. That's just the way I look at it. And, everybody has their different perspective on
alive.
It. So
they're alive. They have consciousness, don't they?
Right. So why would they not have a spirit and roam in an area, and then you'll see it, and then it's gone. So no one talks about that, and I always want. I go, you know what? Why not? Let's just talk about it.
So do you think that's a good explanation for why we don't have Bigfoot remains?
If you talk to a lot, and I've talked to lots of Native American people, if you talk to them, that's what they believe. They believe it's spiritual. It's not. They always tell me the white man will never, get video of this because it's spiritual. That's just the bottom line with them, and they don't deviate from that thought at all. And whenever I was with, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I like that.
Yeah, because
I like that. I'm into that, especially the idea of if they are primate and are sort of close to us in terms of relatives. Why wouldn't we be able to pick up on sort of their spirits if we can? Other humans. Makes sense. Yeah,
because like here in the States, whenever I first started doing Bigfoot stuff, there was a theory that we had that I don't know if you know what a game tracker is. I don't know if they call it that in England, but
no, it doesn't ring a bell. No. Game tracker, did you say?
Yeah, a game tracker. Yeah. So we had a theory that Bigfoots could see these game trackers because it emits like a infrared beam that that only I guess certain frequencies or visually they can see it, and so they would always avoid them all the time. And so we would put out game trackers to like corral a Bigfoot to go to a certain area of the woods and not behind us, but in front of us. So we would put out these game trackers like to keep them away from this area. And it was a couple of times where, we didn't get any like Bigfoot stuff. So we would go back and move these game trackers. And I said, you know what, let's just look at the pictures and the video, see what we find in there. And there's been a couple of times where I've found just like an aberration of something walking by. And it was shoulder, it was like no head, shoulder, chest, like a shoulders, torso, stomach, and then that's it.
Wow. Just
walking by. And it was like, and I would look at it and I wouldn't say anything. I would tell my colleague, I go, look at that and tell me what you see. Write it down. I'm not going to say what it is, and they would look at it. They go, holy crap. It's like, so we would catch stuff like that, and we would put out audio sometimes, to catch Bigfoot stuff. And this would be in the middle of nowhere, Sarah, and then we would catch audio of a little girl saying, "Mommy." And we would just catch stuff like that in the woods, and it's just like, oh man, this is kind of creepy, but
yeah, you're braver than I am.
I don't know, braver. I think I was like, my mom used to always say, "'Cause you're dumb." So she would get my mom would get mad at me every time I'd go out and do stuff. She goes, "You don't even know these people." She would tell me that, and but she would always pray for me, whenever I left. But but that's that was the past. So
that's very cool. I was going to ask you, what's the most sort of persuasive bit of evidence that you've ever come across yourself?
There was whenever I was with the TBRC, I left them and I went independent because I didn't. They were, whenever you're in a group, you have rules and regulations, and you can't do certain things. And I don't know why. That's just the way it is. So when I left them, I went independent. And I know there was this one guy in East Texas who was having Bigfoot stuff on his property, but he didn't want it posted. He didn't want to be famous. He just wanted to know something was coming up and taking, he had goats, chickens, geese, quails, I think, and something was coming up and taking and then he was growing corn, I think corn and squash, and something was coming up and taking his animals or his stock or his corn. So we put up cameras around his property, and there was a video of, and I can't use it because, number one, this gentleman's already passed away, and his wife doesn't want any kind of publicity. She doesn't want any researchers in the area. But when he was alive, we put a camera up on it was a fence line that was separating the woods from his farm, and we put it right on this fence line. And when I put the camera up, the fence line was up to I'm 5'9", and the fence was up to my shoulder, the top of the fence line. And so when we put this camera out, there's a footage of this being walking. It was walking along the fence line, and it's crouched down. It's it's bending its knees, at a pretty hard bend, and it was still taller than the fence.
Oh wow.
And it stepped over the fence no problem. Just stepped right over it, ran down this roll of corn, grabbed a couple stalks of corn, then walked back over the fence line and then took off. And we looked at that video 1,000 times, and I can't use it because again, like I said, he passed away, and his wife didn't want anything to do with it. And I go, okay. So that was probably the most convincing stuff that I've ever seen, because I've never seen a Bigfoot, but I've been in the woods and I've had stuff screamed at me and rocks thrown at me, but that's probably the most I've seen.
That's really, it's really terrifying.
It
You're
is.
telling me about that, and I'm just, honestly, goosebumps. Just the idea of it just stepping over the fence is what absolutely got me.
Yeah.
I can understand kind of wanting to distance yourself from it, because that's kind of scary. And I think if that happened to me, I'd probably want to forget about it as well.
This was in the early 2000s, and I had on that property, I had a bunch of weird stuff happen to me. I don't know if you've heard of the thing called gifting. We would go into the woods, and whatever was in that area, like my friend was growing corn and squash, so I would grab corn and squash, and I'd walk way into the woods, and I would put it in a crook of a tree, and then I would walk back. I wouldn't tell anybody. I would just go do it and come back, and a day later, I would go back and look where I put this food, and in its place, the food was gone, and in its place would be a shiny rock or something, and I go, wow, and then. Or it would either be a shiny rock, or it would be some herbs. And the guy that owned the property would tell me, he goes, hey, you should make that into a tea. I go, put it in tea? He goes, yeah. And I go, okay. And I just did it, and I drank it. And that night I had the weirdest dreams. I had the weirdest dreams that like Bigfoot would walk up and talk to me, or like an eagle would come and talk to me, or a dog would come talk to me and tell me, "Hey, he's coming." And I never posted that anywhere because people would like make fun of me if I did that. And so I had these dreams, and like I was like in a tent, and I would wake up and come out of the tent and be like a big old size 14-inch footprint outside my tent. And I would get these dreams like, you know, they were warning me, hey, he's coming, hey, he's coming. And I would wake up and I'd find footprints outside my tent. And I go, wow. But it's kind of crazy. But have you had any experiences, like paranormal experiences, or at all?
Not with any sort of creatures. I've had sort of experience with what I would, I guess, term a ghost of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had it in a house that I previously lived at. When we moved into the house, found out like the previous occupant was really, really depressed, basically, and he took his life in the house. And there was one particular room that it was both me and my mum couldn't really go into because it was just, I don't know. I've never really had anything before or since, but it was like there was definitely a sort of emotional something going on in that room. And we didn't find out about the history until quite a bit later. So I couldn't have known about it when it happened, but it was just like, you go into this one room and it is like, it takes over your brain, you know? Mm-hmm. The only thing you can think of is, it's just just a cold feeling, like you feel physically cold, and just completely your mood changes, and it's like step in to the room and it's like a bucket of cold water over you, step out, and then it was like that never happened. It was like you don't understand, like, whoa, what was just going on there? And it was like it was as you know, sharp as literally the division between the room. You step in and step out, and it was really insane. And I thought it was just me, because no one was really talking about it. And then I spoke to my mum about it because I was like, this is a bit strange, you know, like it's a weird thing to be having, and we've just moved into the house. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm just stressed or whatever. And she was having exactly the same thing.
Did you ever feel like any kind of nausea or sickness or like headaches or anything like that?
Yeah, so it was a really hot summer, but we thought it was just the summer at that time, but I would literally like really bad migraines, and I haven't really suffered from migraines since, but literally go in there, the kind of headache that would, you know, knock you out for the rest of the day. So I'd feel fine mood wise, but yeah, instant headache. Yeah, and it never totally went either. Like we had someone come round from the church to sort of, I don't really know what he did because I was too young, but we had someone come round from one of the local churches to have a look at the house, but it never fully went away. So it was one of those rooms I just didn't really, that was never my room, you know, it was my sister's room because she was completely unaffected, like nothing on her side at all. But yeah, definitely headaches. No nausea as far as I'm aware, but yeah, headaches, really bad ones. Because
I always find it like, this is what I always run into whenever I do paranormal stuff, is that if the entity or the paranormal guest that's there doesn't communicate, they communicate through like the body. Like when I was in the cemetery last night, I was having these really sharp pains on my knee, like my knee was on fire. And I go, wow, what the heck's going on? And I couldn't figure out, I mean, because like I always stretch, like before I do any kind of physical stuff, and I stretch, and so anytime I investigate somebody and we don't get any kind of communication or feedback or any kind of tapping or, you know, any kind of I guess voices, that's usually what happens, is that you experience what they're experiencing, I guess, before death, or, you know, at death or something. So I don't know if you're able to go back and research that, the former house you're at, and able to see like any kind of history of Because like in the States, if I do investigation on someone's house, I can go to like every county has like a tax appraiser. It gives you like what the house is paid on or whatever, and that's public record here, like in the States. So I'm able to pull up like the tax appraisers, like who owned it, what lot number was, and then I can go to another website and then look up like the deed of the land, and it comes up with a name, and then I go to a library, and then I look up in like newspapers for that name, when they passed, what happened, if there's any like a news article or anything like that. So that's what I end up doing. So I was wondering if you're able to go back and research the land that you were on.
I imagine probably could, because I know we found some information after the fact once we started to have a weird time in the house, because it was like only after we moved in, a few weeks later, I think I told one of our neighbors something, and they were like, well, of course, because this happened in the house, as if like we should have known that.
Right.
Just like, well, didn't you know?
No.
So yeah, I know that information will be out. It was quite a small town as well, so it's the kind of thing that like it would be in the papers. But I think because it never really was resolved, I never really wanted to dig too deep into it. That sounds a bit counterintuitive, but I think if it had been neatly resolved, maybe I would have been interested in it. But it definitely felt like something that was still kind of ongoing, And as far as I'm aware, it's probably still there in that house. I think we've moved out of the house since, but it was definitely there the whole time I was there. So I never really wanted to dig too deep into it. I don't know if it's just a superstition thing, but no,
that's usually a good thing, because I get people asking me, hey, what kind of gear I should, what kind of ghost gear should I buy? And I tell them, I go, well, let me give you some free advice. I go, don't do this equipment in your house. And they go, why? I go, because you may not be able to, if you open that line of communication, you may not be able to close it.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I've heard. Like, I don't know a lot about it, but rule one is like, don't start any of this in your house where you live,
unless they're already communicating with you already.
Yeah, unless you really, really, know what you're doing, because
Because I know when I was communicating with you, you said you were going to take a break. Are you currently taking a break now, or are you?
I was planning to, but it's bloody school half term.
Yeah.
I work retail, and I'm always continuously surprised by half terms. So I was planning to take some time off, and then it's bloody half term, so I can't do it. But definitely coming up, I'm due some holiday.
Okay.
And I'm going to be reading a lot about vampires. So
nice. Yes. Finally somebody's doing vampires.
I am so interested. I've already started getting some books together and just putting them aside so I can just really spend like a proper indulgent couple of weeks just reading about vampires.
Are you going to talk about the Carpathian Mountains or anything like that? Or
I'm going to hopefully just sort of go, back as far as I can. So trace as far back as I can as a sort of history,
yes.
And then try and look at if there are some specific sort of vampire like legends I'm interested in, because I always like to have an angle of one particular aspect that I am personally interested in. So like when I was talking about poltergeists, I was really interested in it from the angle of working class encounters, because there's a lot of the people I was reading about who were having poltergeist encounters, they were very working class, and it will be in like people with lifestyles that I recognize as similar to mine. Things happen in like their rental houses and stuff like that, in little towns in the UK. So I really found this sort of angle that I wanted to explore. So I imagine I'll start researching, and then I'll find a specific angle I want to go for, and then
I love that.
Go from there.
I love that. That's such an awesome perspective. And I was listening to like several paranormal shows or any kind of strange shows and stuff. But again, like I said, I've gravitated toward yours because I love the way you because I'll say this right now. Okay. I am terrible when it comes to reading something like a script on a podcast. I'm terrible at it. So I try to read it a bunch of times and just go off memory. And I think I don't know if you're reading stuff, but if you are, I can't tell. So I would just say that because I really, cause like you have a lot of material that you go over and it's very presentable. And I really, really enjoy it because that's just me though. I don't like when I read stuff. I just think it sounds horrible the way I do it. I'm sorry. But if you're reading the script, it's presentable and I really enjoy it. So
I'm glad you like it. They are scripted. They are almost to the word scripted. But I have sort of over the time of doing this just worked out a way to read them a bit better because I always knew that I wanted to have quite a control over what I was going to say because otherwise I will just lose my train of thought like mid sentence. And I want to make sure I cover all the things I want to talk about, you know? So they're always scripted, but it did take a while to get to the point where it doesn't sound really robotic because if it sounds really robotic, I might as well just have, text to speech do it. But I didn't want that, but it's a lot of gesturing to yourself in a room. Like I'm a very hand gestural sort of person. So once I sort of let myself do that, even though I'm in a room on my own, I think it comes across. So if anyone else who's listening ever feels like, if they ever have to record something scripted, just like do all the hand gestures. It really, really helps because it comes across.
Are you, I was going to ask you, are you interested? Because this is me, I don't like it, but eventually I know I have to do it. If I want to take my podcast where I want to go, are you going to do like any kind of video podcast?
I mean, eventually, yeah, I'd like to, because I think realistically, if you want to reach the widest audience you can, there are going to be people who will want to have this content with some sort of visual, but just getting over the fear of having your face online is, for me at least, it's like going to have to be a whole new thing you have to get used to, of like just being on camera and then being like natural on camera. Sounds quite difficult. Some people are great at it.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I can't even take a good picture. So
like I was just going to say that I used to be a part of this. I'm not going to say who they are because I don't want to talk bad about them because I'm not. But there's this one group on Facebook that just does like some kind of paranormal unity deal, and they call it a channel, and they wanted my show to go on their network, and he wanted me to do video. I go, no, I don't do that. I can't do that. I go, at the time I was just barely getting started. I was barely getting like a fan base up. And he wanted me to do it like on Facebook only. I said, no, I do it on other platforms. Facebook is just one platform. I'm doing it on like 20 platforms right now. And I don't want to just do it on Facebook. And he goes, well, I think you should. I go, well, I'm not going to do it. So I didn't. So, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I know I could eventually do it. And I was talking to Terry about this too. And I know he's going to do it. He's going to do a video. And I go, man, I'm just not, I don't know. I just feel comfortable just doing audio. That's just me. So, I mean, people, they don't need to see who I am. They don't need to see what the background I'm doing, but I know I got to eventually do it. But
yeah,
so.
I feel exactly the same. Like, cause there's so much to sort out. Cause like you're saying background, you've got to have like a little set that people can, that's a whole other thing that you have to have control over, and all the difficulties that go into just, a podcast, which on paper looks like a simple thing to make and is absolutely not.
Yeah. That's
a whole other layer of complexity that you've got to add to it. And
I mean, cause like, I know, I mean, I can't speak for you, but I know from my, from the Bigfoot Club perspective, doing a show, it takes, because there's some people that do a show and then go investigate, and I applaud them completely, and because that's a lot to produce a show, Cause like I edit my show, and I'm sure you do the same thing. I edit my show, I put it out, and I social media the crap out of it to get it out. And, then I put it on YouTube also, which, it's a lot of work to do it on there too, because I don't do video. So I have to do scrolling pictures, and I do that. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, because you have to research your show ahead of time, what you want to do. And you got to research that. If you don't know about it, you have to research the material. And then, because you do it by yourself, right? Most of the time, right? Yeah. And I applaud you for that, because that's really hard to do. But I have a co-host, and so I tell him, I say, hey, you need to research this. I give him a couple links, read about it. When we talk about it, I at least want you to know what you're talking about. And he goes, okay. So you got to research your stuff, and then you got to do the show, and then you got to edit it, and then put it out, and then social media the crap out of it so you can get some downloads. So that's a lot. It's a lot to do. I mean, it's so much to do. And then to do the video stuff, I go, it's another thing I got to do. So
agreed.
So
like, I feel like I'm at my limit now in terms of like, if I added an extra thing to what I'm doing, then something else has got to go. Like, I'm really struggling at the moment because I'm trying to get transcripts sorted, because I really believe that they need to be there, and I feel bad that they're not there.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's another thing that I only got so many hours in the day, and I literally cannot find those hours to get a good transcript out, and I just don't really know what to do about that.
I was going to tell you, there's actually a couple softwares, because I didn't tell you this, but currently right now I work for a healthcare company in the States, and one of the guys had mentioned to another person, goes, hey, talk to Robert. He does a podcast, because they were interested in doing a podcast, and they wanted to do it for our medical providers. And, so my company approached me about doing a podcast. So I explained to them, like, okay, this is where we got to do it. There's other options you want to do it. So they wanted, transcript stuff. So there's a couple websites, and it's like $14 a month that provide that. You can just download your audio, put it on this software, and then it does all the transcribing for you.
I've tried a few. I've tried a few ones of those. So like, I tried Descript. That one's been the best one I've tried. But I don't know if it's just my accent, but it struggles with my accent.
Oh, good God. Come on. You don't have, I can tell whatever you're saying.
It's not, I don't feel like I have a particularly strong accent, but there are, there's quite a lot of words that they always get transcribed wrong. So I'll run it through, but there is a good, probably 3 or 4 hours of going through and correcting the spelling and the punctuation and the transcription errors. And I'm sure it's going to get better. I think it's one of those things that the more you use it, it will get better. But in the moment, just trying to get it established and get that sort of as part of my schedule to getting content out is it's hard. It's so boring as well.
It is.
It sounds awful, but it's so boring.
Yeah. I was talking to my nephew, because my nephew's a big gamer, and he's doing a Twitch. I don't know if you've heard of Twitch. So he's trying to talk me into go, hey, we should do a Twitch channel and just do it that way. Just, do the show on a Twitch channel, and just, and then we could, we do it live, and then, they get the unedited version of it. And then he goes, then, you can edit the show and then put out the show, but we can just do it that way. I go, okay. So he's leading the deal on that. So we're going to eventually, and I guess from Twitch, you could transfer it to YouTube or whatever, and
exactly
Facebook or something. So, but
you just have to sort out your streamer background. If you're going to be on Twitch, you got to have your little backgrounds.
Yes.
You got to have your little neon sign.
Yeah.
Get all this, sponsors soon. You get your G Fuel subscription stuff.
Yeah. It's just one of those things I got to do, but I don't know. I would love for you to come back on eventually. So I would just want you to know that I want to offer that to you.
I'd love to.
Okay, great. Yes. So.
Literally just invite me.
I should.
I know how it is though. Like I've not been great at like reaching out to people the last couple of months. But you know, it is what it is. Everyone's very busy.
Well,
it's just like we're all doing two jobs basically.
Well, if you need some other Bigfoot people, or if you need some other paranormal people, like here in the States, I always find people all the time. I mean, I've networked so much for like the last 20 years, and I've, you know, when someone tells me, goes, "Hey, have you heard of so and so?" Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've talked to, like, cause like I've talked to almost everybody in like the Bigfoot field, at least on the phone, email, instant message, or something, you know. And I've talked to everybody, and I've done a bunch of paranormal stuff too. I mean, I know lots of paranormal people too, but I don't know, if you ever need help or something, you can always reach out to me. I'll find someone for you somewhere. So
I definitely will. Thank you.
But are you gonna eventually go back on Terry's show, or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. He's great. He's just such a nice guy. I'd love to.
He is. I love him to death. He's such a good dude. And I listen to his show all the time, but I've learned a lot about Alabama politics.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell him. I go, man, I know who's running for, like, you know, lieutenant governor there or something. So, but yeah, I love him. He's such a good dude. And I was happy I was able to find you on his show because, you know.
Yeah, I spotted you on his as well, because when I can't remember who reached out to you. I think he might have reached out to me. And then I went to have a look at his show, and I saw Bigfoot Club, and I was like, yep. Go straight to that one. It just really stood out to me. So, but yeah, he's such a great guy. He's so, he just seems so genuine, and just one of those like presences, even, you know, even just over video, he's just very welcoming, and, you know, clearly just loves to talk to people, all kinds of people, and just makes you feel at ease straight away. And he's such a cool guy.
Yeah, he is. Cool. He talks about a wide range of stuff. He talks about paranormal stuff, talks about politics, talks about restaurants. So
his format's just great, isn't it?
It's
such a killer format. Like, it's just why I can't believe no one thought of that before, you know, just like sat on the porch having like these kinds of conversations, because it's such a like natural fit. It's just like, oh God, why didn't I think of doing that?
There's this other guy that I listen to. He's from Alabama too. His name is Wes Anderson, and he does one called In the Shed with Wes Anderson. So he does his show within his shed, like he has 2 kids, and they're really loud. I'm sorry, Wes, for saying that. So he does it like out in his shed. So he calls it, I go, that's a great concept. I talked to another guy that he does his on his back porch. I go, I should get you 2 guys together.
Yeah.
So, but I listened to his show. He talks about politics and sports and the paranormal. And I don't normally watch the news because I don't really like the news right now. So if I get any kind of news from, I get it from him. So I listen to his show, and he knows his sports like pretty. I don't really watch a lot of sports anymore since I had my medical condition and I came back from that. I focus on life now. Not that I'm not making fun of anybody that listens or watches sports, but I focus more on other stuff, not sports anymore. And so I just focus on what makes me happy, and life makes me happy. So I enjoy listening to his because I don't watch sports at all. So I get my scoop from him. And then he does stuff on the paranormal, which I really enjoy. And it's a pretty good show. He has a interesting take on stuff. So I enjoyed it. So I listened to Terry's show, his show, your show. And then I have another buddy that does Bigfoot Crossroads. He's a good friend of mine. I listen to his show. And every now and then I'll listen to, what's his name? Paranormal Roundtable. It's, I think his name is Turner. I can't think of his first name, but, I was listening to his show before I had a show. So, and he does everything paranormal. So paranormal Bigfoot. So I listen to all that. So, and then I'm like a huge wrestling fan. Cause I think, the second time I was on Terry's show, all we talked about was wrestling. So we didn't even talk paranormal. I mean, we talked a little bit of cryptid stuff, but it was mostly wrestling. So
I remember you telling me about your show. It was just used to be like a cryptid paranormal and a bit of wrestling.
Yes.
You got to talk about what you're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested in all that stuff, but you know what? My nephew that's on the show now, his wife Blair, she tells me all the time, because you need to take wrestling out. Nobody listens to it. That's what she tells me. I go, that's you. You don't like it. So, but then I started looking at, because I use Podbean. I don't know what you use, but I use Podbean, and they do the analytics pretty well on there. And I would go and I would go look at all the stats on it, and I would get a bunch of drops once the wrestling portion came on. So I said, okay, I'm one of those people that if I'm wrong about something, then I'll admit I'm wrong. And I go, okay, you're right. So I took it out. I took that portion out, and the downloads went up. And then I went from 1 hour, I used to do a show for 2 hours. And so I went from 1 hour from 2 hours to 1 hour, and I tripled my downloads. And then there was some co-hosts that were on there, and they left, and I tripled my downloads again. I go, okay. So I'm, this is what happens. And I listen to people, and people tell me, hey, we should do this. I go, all right, I'll do it. So, but it is what it is. And like I tell everybody all the time, because I'll post Bigfoot Club on paranormal sites, and they'll like the moderator will tell me, goes, this is Bigfoot. I go, have you listened to my show? Because we talk about other stuff. So,
do you ever feel like you're held back then by it being called Bigfoot Club? Do you think people just...
I do a little bit. And so if anybody knew, me pretty well, because again, I was saying, I love wrestling. I love wrestling a great deal. And where I got Bigfoot Club was, there's a wrestling faction in Japan wrestling called the Bullet Club. And they weren't good guys, they weren't bad guys, they were kind of like anti-heroes and stuff. And I really, really loved them. And so I made the shirt Bigfoot Club before I even did a podcast. I just made the shirt because I loved it. I love the concept of Bigfoot Club. I love the concept of being like a anti-hero. And so I did that. And so like the logo was like, it had a skinny skull on it, and it had like 2 machine guns and bullets on it. And so I made the skull wider, and I put 2 sticks instead of 2 guns, and then put 2 acorns instead of bullets. And so, I was thinking of the idea of doing a podcast. I said, hey, I should do a podcast. What would I call it? Oh, Bigfoot Club. Yeah, I'll just do that.
Just there, ready and waiting.
So it's really just a club of stuff that I like. If anybody knows me and knows about wrestling, and no one's going to know that, but except me. And so, Steven and I, we just talk about whatever we like. We talk about because I've done paranormal stuff. He's done paranormal stuff, and he's been with me my whole life. And so anything I was doing, he was with me. If I did Bigfoot stuff, he was because I raised him. So, I would go out and do Bigfoot stuff on the weekend. He'd go with me. I'd go out and do paranormal stuff. He'd go with me. And so he's been with me the whole time. And it's just what we like. And we like paranormal. And we like talking about Justin Timberlake. So we'll talk about Justin Timberlake. so we like talking about NSYNC, or we talk about movies, or Stranger Things, or The Mandalorian, or whatever. We just talk about what and I've gotten quite a bit of downloads and with that format, so I'm going to stick with it. So
absolutely, yeah.
So sorry, but anyway, I was going to ask you, and you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. What does the future hold for Weird Horizon podcast? What kind of material you're going to cover? Do you want to talk about that or not?
So definitely going to talk about vampires pretty soon. After that, I'm probably going to do another conspiracy theory of some kind. Mm-hmm. Haven't narrowed down which one I want to do, because there are just so many. Mm-hmm. But definitely going to go conspiracy, because I think I haven't done a proper conspiracy theory since Hollow Earth, really.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, though, a lot.
Oh, I loved Hollow Earth. It was so good.
Who did you have on with you on that one?
Oh, it's my friend Lewis. Because it's just he works with me. He's also, you know, one of my best friends. So every time I read about something, I just go into work and I'm just like, I just tell them about what I've been reading about and what I've discovered. And he really likes Godzilla as well.
Yes,
and we were watching,
I kind of got that from him.
yeah, he loves Godzilla, and we were watching whichever the Godzilla one was, where they go into Hollow Earth.
It was Kong versus Godzilla.
Yes, and we were watching it, and we were at his house, and this happened, and we both just turned to each other, just like, it's amazing. But yeah, oh my god, Hollow Earth was so interesting. But I'm thinking maybe Ancient Aliens is the one I've been sort of circling around.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient Aliens. Probably going to have to talk about it at some point because it's, you know, one of the more famous ones, I would say. People are talking about it a fair amount. Yeah, just got to make sure I don't talk to any really racist people.
Yes, yeah.
Is a difficult one.
It is very difficult, but you know, I think you're a pretty good judge of character from the 2 times I've talked to you and all those shows that you've done. I think you're a pretty good judge of character, so you'll be able to navigate through that.
Hopefully, yeah. Navigate it without getting radicalized into the the sort of conspiracy theory rabbit hole that seems to take people and turn them into weirdos.
I was going to tell you, because I know I talked to you about this before, or I messaged you about this, Ingrid Cole.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So he's like, they don't know what he is. I mean, they don't know if he was an alien. I mean, or he was a interdimensional time traveler. But he was spotted in West Virginia before the Mothman prophecies, where the Mothman came out. He was spotted in that town, and then he was spotted in different parts of the U.S. in like 3 different books. I think I told you. Alan Greenspan did a book called The Secret Siphon Filter of the Euphonauts. And he's in Stephen Keel's book, Mothman Prophecies, and he's in another book. I just can't think of it right now. I think it's the gentleman. I can't think of his name, but he's mentioned in 3 books, and some of the stories they talk about him is like almost like Men in Black, like before Men in Black came out, and it was very interesting to me. I've always been interested in that topic and that story, and like my mom is like a huge fan of the show. She listens to every episode, but she will not listen to that show, Ingrid Cole, because I posted pictures of him that supposedly that people saw him, and she saw it because I'm not listening to that show. I'm not going to do it. I don't like that guy's picture.
Yeah, the pictures are so creepy because it's just the smile, isn't it? The smiling man. Like, humanoid, but like I said, similar to Men in Black in that it's like humanoid, but every little bit is kind of off.
Yes.
In that, you know, it's just eerie, but like so much overlap with early Men in Black stuff. Just, kind of human-like, but
I don't know,
seemingly not, you know, something else, something more than just a human.
I just wanted to plant that bug in your ear in case you wanted to talk about this. So
I've got it on my list of topics, this growing list of topics.
Okay.
But I think it would be good to revisit as a similar ones to Men in Black.
Yeah, it's like a little side mission. You know?
So creepy.
So, but anyway, we've been going like an hour and 18 minutes. So I think I can do a show with this one.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get mangled again.
No, it's like whenever I talked to you, like the very last time, I could hear like the static. I could hear static, but I thought it was going to work its way out because there was nothing I could do to change it. You know, I would just go, okay, we're just gonna power through this and see if it works its way out. Because sometimes it does that, and this one has been clear and the whole time. So. But anyway, I wanted to ask the question: how does someone find you find your show, Weird Horizon Podcast?
So you can find me on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Spotify as well. I'm on Good Pods. So just search Weird Horizon. I'm on there. And if you want to find me on social media, I'm on Twitter as Weird Horizon, and I'm on Instagram as Weird Horizon Podcast. But I've said it before, my Instagram is not very good. There's not really much on there, but you can find me on Twitter, and I am usually there to talk to people. So if anyone has any topics, I want them. I am so interested in weird conspiracy theories. The more niche, the better, quite frankly, because it allows me to just lose myself in researching it for a while. So I'm so up for people coming and giving me weird conspiracies.
So that's how I found you. That's how I reached out to you, was on Twitter. I DM'd you. And is that your preferred method of people reaching out to you?
Yes, that's the best way. I'm still kind of getting used to social media. I didn't really use it in any form before all this, so I'm like one step at a time, and I can use Twitter now. I'm like an old woman. I can do the Twitter, but I can't do the Instagrams. Yeah,
I'm right now. I know you don't, and if you don't like this, I'll take it out. I know you don't like Facebook, so. But I do Facebook on mine, but mine is tied into my Instagram. My Instagram's tied into my Twitter. So if I post something on Facebook, it just does it all automatically, all without me.
I think I might give Facebook a go, because like you say, it's tied into Instagram, and I already have Instagram. But
yeah.
Oh my God,
I know.
I haven't logged into Facebook for maybe 10 years, and I logged in, and obviously it's all changed now, and I'm so confused.
You know, I'm extremely grateful that you logged in just for me today. So I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, it's all good. I think this is a good way of doing it. It seems to be better than Zoom for recording anyway.
Yeah, I think so. I think that way, you know, if you want to interview someone in another continent, you can do it, and it sounds clear to me. I don't know. It sounds pretty. I don't know from your end, but from my end, I can hear you pretty well. It almost sounds like you're in the room with me.
It sounds much better than when I've used Zoom, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I just always thought that it was always going to sound a bit weird and distant, but like no, this is way better.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I was using I was using Clearfeed for a while, and I was doing that, and it was like $14 a month, and it was it was hit and miss sometimes. And then a buddy of mine told me, he goes, "Hey, why don't you just use Messenger? I mean, you can call people." I go, "That's a great idea." So I've been doing that, and it's free, so I'm just going to do it.
It's good. And now I'm on Facebook, so you can I can join Facebook groups.
Yeah,
join some paranormal Facebook groups.
I'll send you one. I'll send you mine, and at least at least you'll have, because I post stuff on that every day on paranormal stuff, and I post like stuff for England and whatever, just whatever I find, I just post it on there. So I'll send you a invite on that.
Please.
Okay. And I think that's going to do it. So you have any shout outs? I always ask people, do you have any shout outs you want to do to anybody, or?
No, I'm all good.
Okay. Sarah, thank you for coming on. I really, really enjoyed it. And this is going to be on this Friday coming up. I'm going to post this on Friday.
Sounds good. Let me know when it comes up.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for having me again. I'm glad we could get back to it.
Yes.
I know it was a bit of a nightmare scheduling, but it was always nice to talk to you. And yeah, just if you ever want to do anything else, give me a shout and I'll give you a shout. And yeah.
Absolutely. Good night.
Farewell. Bye.